Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and thank you for clicking on the video. Thank you for your support. Thank you for all you do to support this channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. And today we're talking about what you might not know about soul food. Now, if your family came through the slave system in America, you do know, or you ought to know. But anyway, for those who don't know, that's who this video is for. I really shouldn't have to do this, but these black immigrants are coming to this country and they're starting to really irritate me. In fact, they're really making me mad down to my soul. Every time somebody tries to claim that black Americans got soul food from them, I know immediately they don't know our history, they don't know our culture, and they definitely don't know how soul food works. Soul food is not borrowed. Soul food is not copied, and soul food is not some random regional cuisine that black people happened to adopt. Soul food is ours because we made it under pressure, under surveillance of the white gaze, under starvation, under slavery, and under circumstances that no other group in this country has ever had to survive. So today I'm breaking down what you might not know about soul food and why it is one of the cheapest examples of Black American genius. I want to make something really clear to anybody who might be listening to this video. When the enslaved people came to the United States, they didn't bring African culture with them. They brought their culture with them. They knew how to cook and they knew how to prepare foods from their own cultures. There were several cultures mixed together. So Black Americans don't owe anything to any region of Africa. They don't owe anything to the Caribbean. I don't even know why they even get in the conversation. But I want you to understand that they didn't bring African culture with them. They brought their culture. They already knew how to cook. And then when they came into a new environment, they had to adapt different ways of doing things, including cooking. So I do want to make the point that they were functioning human beings when they were brought into this system. They already knew how to do things, but this environment required them to do things differently in many cases. So let's get one thing straight. There were two soul food kitchens. This is the part people never talk about because they don't know about it. And it's the part that makes me furious when people try to rewrite history. Enslaved black women cooked in two kitchens. They cooked in the slave master's kitchen and they called it the big house. In the slave master's kitchen, they cooked European style dishes. There were multiple courses, roasts, gravies, pastries, imported spices and seasoning, fresh vegetables, and high qualities of meat. Now, this is standard. Everybody knows that the slave masters ate differently than the enslaved people. It goes without saying that the cooks were house slaves. Now, when we hear people, especially black people, talking about slavery, there is a lot of revisionist history. They are just rewriting the whole thing on site. The light-skinned people worked in the house and the dark-skinned people worked in the field. Well, I've got news for you. First of all, they didn't come to the United States light-skinned. And second of all, the slave master's cook had to be a good cook, regardless to her skin color. So whether you were light-skinned or dark-skinned, you had to be a good cook. And Gone with the Wind, Mammy was not light-skinned, but she was running that house. So all this business about, oh, you have to be light-skinned, that's just a bunch of stuff they made up after slavery. And I'm sure some of that happened because those slave masters were getting children by those enslaved women. But at the beginning, light skin wasn't even a thing. But anyway, the enslaved women cooked for their master dishes that they thought the master would like. They wanted to please the slave master because the quality of their life depended on how the slave master viewed them. So they became good cooks. Black women were the backbone of American cooking for centuries in private homes, in restaurants, plantations, military kitchens, and railroad dining cars. Their expertise in cooking evolved over hundreds of years. It's not something that's just popped up overnight. It evolved. In those kitchens, in the slave master's kitchen, they experimented with the seasoning, the spices, made sauces and gravies, and they made desserts and things, all to please the slave master. So that is a part of soul food, what they were doing in the slave master's kitchen. And then they worked in another kitchen, in their own kitchens in the slave quarters, which we in the South sometimes call the quarter. But before I move on to the kitchens in the quarter, I want to make the point. The white families trusted black women with their food because black women were the best cooks in the country, period. Black women didn't try to poison the slave master and his family. Now, there might be some cases where black women try to do that. Sometimes black people think that it's cute that, oh, the cooks in the kitchen poisoned the slave master, or they served glass in the food, or they served, feces in the food. Most of them did not. Most of them were honest people who knew they were in a bad situation, and they worked through their faith and their diligence and their hard work. They worked their way out of a bad situation. And I want to make the point that in my family went through the whole system. Like, as I said before, Harriet Tubman didn't come for us. We went through the whole thing. And I don't have any history in my family of black people doing anything wrong to poison anybody or hurt anybody in any way. And in my family, we are good sleepers. We sleep well at night. Now, I want to talk about the second kitchen that the enslaved women were over, and that was their own kitchen in the water. And nobody romanticizes this kitchen. This is what they call slave food. That's where we heard the African girl and Caribbean girl got mad at a guy because she didn't know how to cook candied yams, and she started calling it slave food, and she don't know how to cook slave food and all that slave food because she was never a slave. Well, we were enslaved, and we made the best of it. And we're not running to this day, running to other people's country trying to find somewhere to live. So let's talk about the slave kitchen. At home, the enslaved families ate ration staples that the slave master gave them: cornmeal, molasses. They ate the discarded cuts of meat: offal, fatback, ham hock, chitlins. They didn't get the good parts of the animal. So they got the ration food that the slave master would give them, but what they were able to do was to grow their own garden. And that's why Southern black people in particular eat a lot of vegetables. They were able to grow collards and turnips and cabbage and squash and tomatoes and okra. So they ate the foods that they grew from their own gardens. And those foods were really good. And that's a part of soul food too. They had pecans and peanuts, potatoes. They had things like that, things that they could really work themselves and make good, and it didn't cost very much. And watermelon, I don't want to leave out watermelon. Yes, they liked watermelon because they worked in the cotton field. And the watermelon patch was close to the cotton field. And the reason for that was that they worked in the hot sun and they couldn't run to the well back at the house and get water. So they had watermelon next to the cotton patch, because what is the key word in watermelon? Water. And what do you need when you're out in the sun working hard? Hydration. So what does water, the water in the watermelon, give you? Hydration. It made perfectly good sense. So after slavery, the freedmen really knew how to grow watermelons. And that was one of their staple crops. And they made a lot of money selling watermelons. And that's how it became stereotyped, because the white people got jealous because they were doing so well selling watermelons. But guess who grows the most watermelons? I won't tell you, just guess. So back to soul food. Soul food is about technique, not just ingredients. Soul food is defined by how the greens are cooked, how the chicken is seasoned, how the cornbread is prepared, how the sweet potatoes are spiced. how the beans are flavored with smoked meat. It's not just the ingredients, it's the method, it's the layering of flour, it's the patience, it's the creativity, it's the determination to make the best out of what you have. Soul food is culinary engineering. And soul food evolved over centuries. After slavery, soul food didn't disappear, it expanded. Chicago has its way of cooking soul food, Detroit, Cleveland, New York, Philadelphia, and all of the southern states. So, soul food is an evolution of what happened on the plantation to Black people and white people, and now it is world renowned. So you can connect soul food to anything that Black Americans are doing, have done, and will do in the future. So anybody outside of our culture talking about soul food came from them, they're not just wrong. They're erasing history, they're erasing our labor, they're erasing our culture, and they're erasing the brilliance of Black women who cooked in two kitchens and mastered both. Soul food is ours because we built it, we preserved it, and we perfected it. It's Black American genius served hot, cold, or however you like it. Okay, y'all, let me know what you think about the video and have a good day.